Welcome to IROC Business with Confidence, the podcast where passion meets profit without the pressure of a big price tag. I'm your host, Corey Fonville Foster, transformational speaker, certified business coach, trainer, and the CEO behind the mic. In every episode, we dive deep into the heart of entrepreneurship, bringing you stories, strategies, and tips to monetize your passions while maintaining your budget. Whether you're a budding entrepreneur or looking to scale up, this is your go-to resource for affordable sales and marketing strategies. Join us as we interview small business experts from around the globe, sharing their journeys, challenges, and the solutions that propelled them to success. IROC Business with Confidence podcast is here to demystify the process of running a successful business on a budget. Get ready to transform your entrepreneurial dreams into reality, one episode at a time. All right. Welcome back to the IROC Business with Confidence podcast. Today, we're thrilled to have Shante Smith-Daniels with us, a visionary leader and the CEO of SSD Consulting. Residing in Houston, Texas, Shante brings a global perspective, enriched by her travels and a profound commitment to operational excellence. With an MBA specializing in global operational leadership, she has transformed her deep-seated passion for people-centric approaches into a thriving business. Shante is dedicated to empowering small to mid-sized businesses, helping them escalate beyond conventional boundaries through strategic operational guidance. Beyond her professional achievements, she is a staunch advocate for mental health, particularly among women of color, and serves as a board member and development committee chair for the Fit and Food Connection. Today, she's here to share her insights on operational leadership, the importance of strategic partnerships, and her unique approach to elevating businesses. Please join me in welcoming Shante Smith-Daniels. Hello.
Hello.
I'm so happy to have you here. We got to talk a little bit before and kind of got connected, and I was like, I have to have you on the podcast. You just have such a wealth of knowledge, but also just a great spirit. So I'm so excited that you could be here. I know I gave a little intro already about you, but I would love for you to tell our audience a little bit more about you and kind of how you got into business.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. So that intro was amazing. I feel like I need to get it tattooed on my arm somewhere. But a little bit about me. So I actually worked in a corporate environment for about 15 years in operations capacities. And so I learned really quickly, like when I was encountering small businesses, I would see things like they could change or update or fix to make them more successful. One of the things I noticed was small business owners were working crazy hard at some point when actually they had time to relax and step back and bring on a partner to help them lead their teams. So that's why I started my business, because what I saw was like business owners getting stressed out, getting burnt out. Um, and sometimes they have the finances to hire somebody, but they're like, nope, I'm Superman, I'm Superwoman, I got all this. And corporations don't function like that, right? They have a whole C-suite of executives that take care of things in the corporation. So that's why I started my business, to help small and mid-sized businesses get that kind of C-suite operational leadership that will help them grow and scale. So that's that. I love people. Like you said, I'm a mental health advocate. So my operations framework is actually focused on people. I mean, if your people ain't right, you ain't gonna make no money. So so if you don't treat your customers right, or your clients, or your employees, that is going to lead to some loss of revenue in your company. So that approach for people is actually the base of my operational framework.
I love that. I think sometimes people think that they're just so like their head is in the business so much that they forget about the real human aspect, whether it is the people that they are serving or the people on their team that are supporting their vision for their business. And one thing I loved when I looked at the package my team put together for you was the word strategic partner kind of came up. And I was like, I love that because oftentimes as an entrepreneur, when we have to invest in individuals, right, their expertise, people like you, we
Mhm.
forget that we need those strategic partners. So how do you partner with businesses, especially in your zone of genius, and why is it really crucial to their ability to grow and scale?
Yeah, so how I partner with them, I partner with the CEO, and we talk about like the goals for the business within the next 3 to 5 years. And we make a roadmap, and I make sure we're following that roadmap, and we have the tools and resources we need to do that. So that could be hiring a team member. That can be, unfortunately, sometimes firing a team member if it's not the right fit or the right position. That can be investing in new software. That can be investing in new marketing efforts. And the reason that's so important is because, like you said, as a CEO, I'm a CEO as well. So we really work in our business. We're very passionate about our business. And sometimes we can have like tunnel vision, right? We have tunnel vision and we're not seeing like market factors or other things that can influence our business. And especially if we have a team, leading a team is work, 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 work. And so if we're the CEO of the company and we're doing the team leadership, we're doing the marketing, we're doing everything, our company's going to stall out. I mean, you still may be making some money, but you're missing out on a lot of potential if you don't have a strategic partner there with you. And I always say this to my clients: I am a truth teller. I am a truth teller. So once we have our call and we're on a path, if you wake up one morning and say, "Hey, I want to go this complete different direction," I'm going to say, "Wait, why?" And we're going to talk about it, right? We're going to look at the data. We're going to look at the numbers. It may be something God gave you, but it wasn't for today. Like it may be for some years, right? So that's a conversation I have with my client, like an honest conversation with my clients. Like, no, I don't suggest you do this because of whatever reason it is. And that's what operations is about. We actually look at the whole business when we're creating a plan.
Oh my gosh, you made me laugh. You're telling the truth. You said you a truth teller. It's so funny because I think that because I'm a coach, by trade. When I
Uh-huh.
go into sessions with clients and I have to do that, they always look so shocked. It's like, but this is what you pay for. You're paying for somebody to hold you off sometimes. When I
Yeah.
just need to say yes, a really good coach, a really good partner within your business is gonna be honest. If you just want yes people, then you really are doing yourself a disservice because you need
Hmm.
somebody to say, hold on now, we just discussed this, came up with this amazing plan, and we
Right.
haven't implemented the plan. We haven't looked at the plan, as it's finished or gotten any data from it, and now we're
Right.
jumping. And this is probably why you're not where you wanted to be in the first place and why you needed to hire someone.
Right.
And I love that you said that because people are just so shocked, like, oh my gosh, really? And then you brought up, God told me. I hear that all the time. But maybe God's trying to tell me, hold on, maybe you misinterpreting the signs. Maybe
You
because I'm like that don't seem quite right. I don't think that's gonna give you the result that you thought you were gonna get. And
right.
sometimes, yeah, we gotta bust folks' bubble, but that again is why you hire experts to support you, but also give you those reality checks. And so, kind of keeping in that same vein, I know you're not new to this. You've been doing this for a while. So, what are some of the common challenges that you see kind of come in when people hire you? Like the same, patterns of like, besides that they just out here doing random stuff and you're like, hold on, pause. But outside of that, what other, especially when it comes to operations, what are some of the common situations that pop up that you help people deal with?
I would say the most common thing is forgetting their systems and making things easy for their clients and customers. So whether that's onboarding, your sales funnel, once you have that customer client, once they purchase that product, retention, acquisition. I think right now we're in a season of like social media, right? And sales, like high volume sales, like lead generation, but there's no conversation about like how to keep these people, right? There's a metric called customer lifetime value that I think is really important for service-based businesses. And basically, that's how much a customer spends with you over maybe like 10 years, right? And that's really important because you may have customers on a lower scale of that spend $50 and you're like, we need to figure out why they're not spending more money with us. So I would say that another thing is they have the wrong people on their team. They have the wrong people on your team. It is hard being a CEO and manager and having a team. And sometimes you hire family. Sometimes you hire family friends, friends of the family or your friends, and they're not the right fit for the position, right? You may hire a family friend to do your customer service or your email. Do they know how to write? Have you checked their grammar? Like, are they responsive? So that is one of the biggest things I see. Because, especially when we're starting entrepreneurs, we're just hired. We're like, oh, I need your help. I need your help, right? But as you grow, that position grows that they're in, and you may need someone else. And so I see a lot of times small business owners like, yeah, I can't keep people, or they keep quitting, or I can't find the right people. And I want to say, well, it's probably you. Not in the, it's probably you, because you're not delegating or not giving them the correct onboarding or training or check-in that they need, or having those honest conversations that they need to be successful.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're calling a few people out right now, and that's the funniest part about this podcast is we have to be honest, y'all. Like that's the whole point of it. And yeah, sometimes it's gonna trigger you. You're gonna be like, "Dang, I'm sitting here. You know, hired your auntie and your stepbrother and your cousin down the street, and they doing their best, but you're trying to figure out why it's not working. Or maybe you hired that virtual assistant from the Philippines, and you're like, why can't she do this, this, and this? Because you're trying to make her read your mind, and you haven't given her anything, any type of SOPs, which we'll talk about next, but you've given her nothing, and she's just supposed to miraculously be able to fix your business and do all the things that you envision for her to do. And so yeah, sometimes we have to be honest. It's us. Yeah, I definitely can say that was me early on in my business when I hired my assistant. I was like, why doesn't she get it? And I realized I was being very task oriented when I needed to be more high level and kind of have her be a part of the vision of the business. And I wasn't just expecting her to read my mind, because I definitely was. I would be hot in meetings like, why isn't all this stuff done? And she's like, what are you talking about? The first time I'm hearing this. And I had to learn and grow. And so if I would have had somebody like you back then, they probably would have lessened those growing pains for me. But we get to the end how we get there. But kind of going back to SOPs, I call it the S word. People hate it because I think people just overcomplicate SOPs. So could you kind of break down what is an SOP and why is it crucial, especially as you're growing your business?
Let's see. The simplest way for me to explain an SOP is instructions. Instructions on how to do every single thing in your business. So from hiring, from sales, from marketing, it's instructions. And the reason that is so important is because like we were talking about employees and training and all that, right? So as your business grows, it's really important to have that documentation in place to help you scale and expand. So sometimes a lot of business owners, not a lot, but some business owners may want to open up another location, right? But in order to do that, you need to have those SOPs in place to basically duplicate your operations in that other location, wherever you want to go, or sell your company. So SOPs are very important just in the everyday running of your business. It helps your employees. They don't always have to come to you saying, hey, how am I supposed to do this? You can say, you need to go check the library where we have our SOPs and look under 1.2A or whatever your naming convention is. But it's really important. I think the important thing with SOPs is make it user friendly. Like, we don't need an essay. We don't need an essay, right? Just make it user friendly, right? And you want to make it with the end user in mind. So when I say that, like if I'm doing an SOP for how to handle a difficult customer, or how to respond to a lost package, that SOP is catered towards the employer contractor that is answering that query, right? So I think it's really important to think of the end user. So if it's a marketing SOP, you want to make sure it's worded in a way a marketing person can understand it.
Yes, everything you said, I totally agree with. SOPs, like I said earlier, it kind of saved my business in particular because I have been doing everything, right? When you start off as the one and only person in your business, you're doing everything. And then when somebody comes on, you expect them to be able to do it, but then you don't give them resources. So it was a big thing for us to sit down and say, okay, what did I do? How did I do it? Even when it came down to just sending messages, okay, what if the customer, potential customer, responds this way? Then I send this message, or I do this.
Mm-hmm.
So they really helped me be able to delegate work out. And so I would say to anyone listening, don't just wait till it's time to hire someone. Start writing down what you're doing now. So when they do come, you already have something in place to hand over to them. And then they can always add to it, update it as the business grows. I would say that that is something that's going to really, I would almost say, make or break your scalability, because you
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to give people resources and tools to be able to do a great job. Kind of going back to something you said earlier, we kind of talked about you really believe in a customer centric approach, especially to operations. Can you dive a little deeper into that and kind of tell us, how does one, especially a small business,
Mm-hmm.
create a customer centered approach to, their potential client's journey or their client journey?
Yeah, yeah. So back in the back in the day. I was a customer service advisor, so I was on the phones. Oh, I was on the phones. So, oh my gosh, I was on the phones. But what I realized was a lot of some of the issues our customers were experiencing were due to like a poor customer experience or a poor customer journey. So that's why I try to focus on that end user, the customer client, because what happens is if your customer is having a poor journey or a poor experience, you know who that filters to? Your employees. Those employees you said you couldn't keep. Well, they probably keep getting yelled at customers because you're onboarding or you're shipping or something's wrong, right? So that's when I say customer centric. Like we have to think about the end user. You know, it's not always about the number of likes or something on Facebook or how much engagement we get on something. It's about how our actual paying clients feel when they purchase a product or service from us.
Oh my gosh, you make it so simple. She's like, it's just how they feel. Okay, cool. It doesn't have to be complicated all the time. I love it. I love
Yeah.
when we have experts that can make it simple enough so that we can understand and then use that information. And kind of
Hmm.
speaking of information, something that I know just from working with a lot of new business owners that happens is they definitely feed off of a lot of emotion. They fall in
Hmm.
love with their product or service, they fall in love with their audience. And so they are really operating out of mostly emotion and passion, but oftentimes I have to remind them that we got to look at the data. In this interview, a little bit about KPIs, and for those of you who aren't familiar with that term, that's key performance indicators. Do
Hmm.
you utilize those in your practices when you work with clients, and if so, how does that work? Even tying back into being more client focused and client centered, how do you
Oh
guys
yeah.
use KPIs?
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely do that. So when I onboard my clients, we talk about goals and their vision, and I get an understanding of their company. KPIs is one of the first things we set up because that's how we're measuring our company's success, right? So all KPIs are not money focused. For instance, employee satisfaction, right? Now, employee satisfaction does affect your money, but that's not a money focused metric. It's more like how your employees feel. Are they happy about coming to work? Basically, that's what it boils down to. And so, what that does is that helps me gauge where we're at as a company. So, let's say I come into your company and your employee satisfaction score is like 30 or 30% or whatever metric we're using, it's below average. So my our goal is to increase that, right? And so we're putting things in place. I'm talking to the team, I'm putting systems in place to increase that, because these larger corporations, that's all they do. They have KPIs, they have metrics, and they're always going to measure against those KPI metrics. Now at some point they change, they adjust them depending on the market or depending on their new goals. But that's what they're doing. They're always going against those KPIs, those metrics, to see how they can be successful. And then one thing you said, like what's the data say? Like, we just implemented this program, and it's been 30 days, and you're like, no, I want to change it. No, we haven't had enough time to get enough data to do whatever we need to do or measure it, see if it's actually effective or efficient. So KPIs are so important. So important. But I will say the one thing about KPIs, it's not just about the goal. It's about your vision for your company, right? So if you envision yourself being like a $10 million company, right? Your KPI is that little bait, that little step that's going to help you like get there, right? There's a whole bunch of steps, but setting up the right KPIs is what's going to help you get to that number.
I love that. And I think a trend that's we kind of keep talking about, or you keep mentioning throughout this interview, is that we should be utilizing some of the same strategies these big companies are using. Because oftentimes I think people think because they're a small business that they can act like almost like a hobby business and they can still get away with it. And it's like, not if you want to be successful, not if you want to have a business that sustains throughout time. Like, you have to realize that the big businesses are big businesses because they are using these strategies. And if we are smart, we're going to use some of these strategies too. And so I think sometimes we have to change our mindset when we do business to realize like we got to think like those big dogs if we want to play with them like everybody else. We want to make money. If we want to have amazing clients that come back time and time again and do business with us. We gotta be professional. We have to do business like business. I do want to pivot a little bit because I think this is so important, and I wanted to make sure we got this in during the interview, because one of the cool things about you is you don't just do operations, you don't just do leadership. You also have a big focus on mental health. And I know earlier you kind of mentioned burnout, and that's just so common, especially among solo entrepreneurs. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of mental health and how people who are, doing it all right, they're the janitor of their business, they're the HR of their business, they're the CEO, the CFO, they're all these people within the business. How can we avoid burnout and really put mental health as a priority in our business?
Yeah, so as I like to say, life be lifing, right? And so as an entrepreneur, CEO, life still be lifing, and you still have to work very hard to earn your money and get those sales and work with your clients. So to me, when I was in the corporate space, my daughter, she has had some mental health issues. And I was like, man, what is happening? And at the time it happened, I really didn't have anyone to talk to. I felt like I was alone. And then I just started saying it, not like random people on the street, but I'd be like, yeah, I was out. My daughter had such and such. I'm like, yeah, me too. And I found like there's such a community of people that are going through mental health issues or issues with their family and mental health. But we don't talk about it. And even in this entrepreneur space, we are trying to do everything by ourselves, right? Which by itself is stressful, right? But I say operations gives you the space you need to take care of your mental health, right? Because it gives you that time you need to go to the therapist. Especially for women of color, life be life. And burnout is real. Burnout is real. And I think a lot of times some businesses fail because the owner is just burnt out and exhausted, right? They're just exhausted. And so when you have a good strategic operations partner in place, that person can come take some of that burden off you, some of that load off you. So you can sit back and just be like, I'm just a CEO, right? I'm not the janitor. I'm not the manager. I'm not the cook. I'm not the chef. I'm not the maid. I'm just the CEO. And that gives you time to do the things you enjoy in life, like maybe spend time with your family, read a book, sip some wine. I don't know. Go to therapy, exercise. So that's why I think operations as a small to mid-sized business owner is so important, because it gives you that space to deal with life when life be life in. And still have your business operate efficiently.
Yes, that sounds like a dream. Like, oh, I only have to be one thing today. Yes.
Right,
Um,
right.
but I agree. I think, like, because I go back in my mind and go back to a time when my business was new and it was just me. And I remember feeling just so overwhelmed every day because there were always so many tasks to be done. And there was no one to even bounce ideas off of. And now, like with my assistant, it's like, wow, that's so helpful. And now we have our team, and it's just thinking about like those old days. It's funny though because my assistant went on vacation. She's been with me for years, but she took a 7-day vacation recently. I was in tears, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. I was like, oh, she gotta come back. I said, next time she take a vacation like this, we gonna just take the business and go on vacation. I said, because I forgot what it felt like to be, you know, by myself completely,
Mm-hmm.
because she's the only person that's local to me. All of the other people are virtual; they're all over the world. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I need somebody like here. I felt crazy. And so, I definitely understand, especially for some of you newer entrepreneurs, what you're feeling right now, because entrepreneurship can be lonely for
Mm-hmm.
sure. And then when life happens, you said life be life, and I feel you. When that happens, it's very hard to stay afloat because you're already struggling. You're already trying to, find that first or second, third client. You're trying to, build up your products and services. You're trying to make sure that you don't end up in jail because your money funny or something crazy. You're doing all the things, and then you're stressed out. So I think definitely operations is gonna be key, but also just remembering to take time because I know for some of you, you're like, well, I'm not ready to add individuals or pay for
Yeah.
software, whatever.
Yeah.
But you gotta still have those boundaries that take some time
Mm-hmm.
because you can't help nobody if you can't help yourself. And that's just the real tea. I do want to ask you because again, some of these individuals are more new. They may not be just ready to have
Yeah.
some operational manager come in or somebody to really help them spruce up their business. What are some things that maybe they can do right now to get some things in order so when you do come in, you are able to support them?
I would say one of the first things is SOPs, right? Um, because that's coming from the CEO owner, right? So one of the first things you can do, especially as you're revving up your business, start writing your SOPs, like start storing that somewhere. That's the first thing I would recommend you do. So that way, when it is time for you to hire an assistant or a VA or whoever you need to hire, it's easier for you to train that person and onboard them. The other thing I will say is stay focused. Like I said, a lot of times we'll wake up with a new idea. It's really important you kind of stay focused. And if you have a business coach, of course, listen to your business coach, but kind of stay focused on what your business is and what you offer. And then once you start getting some data in, then you can kind of change that path a little bit. But I think I'm gonna be honest, for me as well, I was on social media too much. I was on there way, way too much. And everybody's like, oh, do this. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do that. And then they were like, do this, do that. No, don't do that. You stay focused. You get your numbers in, you get your data in, and then you figure out if you need to switch the path. Um, and then the other thing I would say is just take care of yourself. Like you were saying, being a small business owner is very, very difficult. And you have to just take care of yourself. And then um, what I do when I started my business is I time block. So what I did was I had certain times for certain things. So I had times in the morning where I got up and exercised. I had times in the morning where I scheduled sales emails because I sent out some sales emails. So I also think time blocking will probably be really good for new business owners. And actually, that time blocking probably gets you into operations mindset because at this certain time, this is exactly what you're doing.
Wow, such great advice. I agree with everything you said. I'm like, I do that. Yep, I do that. I'm on the right course.
Mhm.
But yeah, I agree with everything you said. And I'm looking at the time. I'm like, oh, we never have enough time to just talk and talk. I feel like we could talk about this for another hour. But with that being said, I always want to give our amazing experts their flowers. So thank you so much for being on the podcast. One, because you've given such a wealth of knowledge. But for those individuals who are listening to this and like, I need to work with Shante, please tell the audience where they can find you. And if you have anything coming up down the pipeline that we should know about, let us know.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. It's all under SSD Consulting LLC. On LinkedIn, I'm probably more active on my personal page, which is Shante Smith-Daniels. I'm the one in the green, because green's my favorite color, like Green Lantern or something. But anyway, so that's where you find me. So what I have coming up, I have some speaking engagements and some more podcasts. So if you follow me, you'll see all that. And I really make sure on my content, on my pages, I'm giving everyone some really helpful advice. So if you ever need some operational advice for free, make sure you follow me.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. And guys, if you're listening or watching, Her information, her links will be in the show notes. So definitely don't let this be the last time that you hear from her and that you utilize her amazing skills. I always tell you, when you're ready, connect with our experts, but make sure you are ready. Don't be trying to get a whole bunch of free stuff, y'all. She said you can chat on social media, but once you go to her website, you go to her link, book a call with her, and be ready to do the work. But for you guys, remember, we drop a new episode every single week. And I rock, you rock, we all rock. And we will talk to you guys next time.
And that's a wrap on another episode of IROC Business with Confidence podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining our journey into the world of entrepreneurship. If today's episode inspired you or just gave you the tools to tackle your next business challenge, we'd love your support. Please like, share, follow, subscribe, and rate us with a glowing 5 stars. And don't forget to leave us a review. Are you an entrepreneur with a unique perspective, expertise, or actionable strategies that our audience can implement today to advance their entrepreneurial journey? We're always on the lookout for guests who are ready to share their stories and insights. If that's you, please reach out to us. Remember, entrepreneurship isn't just about the destination, it's about the journey. And here at IROC Business with Confidence, we're here to journey with you. Until next time, keep rocking your business with confidence. We can't wait to see where your entrepreneurship journey